Before we get started, please go down to the description. We have our TCG Player affiliate link. I know you're going to want some cards in this deck. You might want to build this deck. You might want to take some cards from some of your other decks. If you do it through that link in the description, it helps support the channel, helps us make this content, and we really appreciate it. Thank you all so much. Yo! Welcome back to One More Mana. My name is Derik, and as you can see, I am using no safety precautions, no gloves, no goggles. I'm just living. Somebody asked me in the comments why there are no gloves. I said I like to live dangerously. I'm living extra dangerously because I got no protection. So yeah, recently moved. Can't find the goggles. So I'm gonna be I'll be properly dressed at some point once I find all my safety equipment. But that is no excuse not to be coming up with more deck techs and more deck doctors. I don't need to practice safe deck doctoring. I'm gonna just do it anyway, and that's what we're doing. So this next one is just an awesome deck, near and dear to my heart. And it's one of our patrons, Thomas Snell. He submitted his Mimeoplasm, and I love the Mimeoplasm. How the Mimeoplasm works is this is just a giant concoction of Sultai, just beauty. It is amazing. And basically, when you cast it and when it enters, you pick two cards in any graveyard, keyword any graveyard, and it comes in as a copy of one, and with number of +1/+1 counters equal to the power of the other. Now, why this is interesting, for the longest time before I played it, I always assumed it came in as a copy of one with the power and toughness of the other. I didn't realize it was the copy of one with +1 counters in addition. This thing can get crazy. It is so much fun. You can focus on milling your own crazy stuff. You can focus on milling everyone else and playing their crazy stuff. It's an awesome deck, and it is so much fun to play. And because of the fact you can use other people's graveyards, it creates some crazy fun games and high variability to where it can be different every time, and I love that about it. Now, always first, got to go through the diagnostics, look at how this deck is looking. Now, Thomas, I can tell right away you are a very ambitious person, and I like that. I like it a lot. The biggest thing I saw was there's a lot of high CMC cards, lots of high CMC, and I didn't notice enough enablers. There's some awesome payoffs, some crazy cards that go great with Mimeo, but I felt like there needed to be a little bit more build and a little bit more setup to get to those cards, because it has a very high CMC, and I saw there was not a ton of ramp and not a ton of enabling your graveyard to grow. So we're just gonna kind of put little things here and there. Really, that high-end stuff that you had in there is awesome. I love some of the cards you picked. There's some cards in there that I didn't have in my own Mimeoplasm that need to go in ASAP to that deck list, because they are awesome and really more efficient ways of some of the stuff I was already trying to do. So without further ado, we're going to get into the creatures and kind of see where I kind of switch some things up with the creatures. You have some just awesome, just bomb giant creatures that we want to turn Mimeo into. We got Inkwell Leviathan, Lord of Extinction, just for all the +1 counters. Even something like the Haunt of Hightower is so good, and that stuff we were keeping no matter what. Those are still going to be those big payoff things we want. But again, we want more enablers. So we want stuff like Stinkweed Imp and Golgari Thug, Golgari Grave Troll, that type of stuff, because we want Dredge. Dredge is just such a strong mechanic in general, and with Mimeo it's just amazing to be able to dump stuff, because there's so many times, especially once we get to a certain amount of mana, we're not worried about drawing cards. We want to get crazy stuff into our graveyard or other players' graveyards. And while I love the emphasis you had on getting stuff in other players' graveyards, because that's really the most fun. Mimeo is kind of coming up with strange combinations. I think it's really important to put in more Dredge, more self-mill, so you can reliably hit your pieces if you need to. There's also something I wanted to throw in that was super important, I felt, with Mimeo, and the one thing I think the most fun thing to do with them is create giant creatures that just swing and kill people. And that's really the thing you want to do most. But there's another thing you can do with all these +1 counters, and I think something that I didn't really emphasize much when I originally built mine either, and something that just from looking at the deck list and going over and researching it as much as I could, you can get some crazy card draw. And cards like Cold Eye Selkie, Prime Speaker Zagana, and a card like you can get Thought Sponge, or even something like Toothy. These cards create insane combinations. When you drop a Toothy, all of a sudden you exile that Lord of Extinction, just throw +1 counters onto it. Yeah, it's a huge creature, and if that can get through, you're already running stuff like Filth and Wonder to get stuff through. You can just smack people in the face with it, and worst case, if it gets removed, you draw tons of cards. And that same goes with the other ones like Prime Speaker. Zagana just entering just draws you a bunch of cards. Cold Eye Silky probably can't be blocked and it'll draw you tons of cards. There are so many cool things with these creatures that they can become giant beaters, but they hit you with so much card draw. And you know what the best thing about drawing all those cards is? You draw 20 cards. Yeah, you're going to have a handful. You could pick the best, but in a deck like this, you can also pick which ones you discard. So you could go ahead and pick the perfect cards to pitch into your graveyard while keeping the few that you want in your hand. There is also one utility creature I definitely wanted to point out, and it's Torrent Elemental. This is just, in general, in Mimeoplasm decks, something you want to run. Just because you can cast it from exile. So it's always a target there. It has that awesome, when it's attacking trigger to tap stuff down, which is amazing. So if Torrent Elemental gets huge, all of a sudden you're just swinging at people, their creatures are getting tapped down, you're getting it through for so much damage, but on top of that, you can cast it from exile so you can keep recycling it. One of the dangers in a Mimeo deck is if it goes too long and you exile all your big kind of target creatures, you miss out on them, you can't recycle them. Well, this is a great way for a creature you can just repeatedly get out, get value from, and keep using it as that Mimeo target. And there's also a couple creatures I think that would slot in great as win cons here. Now, you know me, you know I love Phyrexius, you know what direction I'm already going in. If you don't like this or your play group doesn't like Infect, it's fine. These cards aren't necessary, but they are so good in Mimeo, and it's Blighted Agent and Skittles. Skittles especially because it can get haste. Skittles, exile another creature, all of a sudden you have an over 10 Infect flyer with haste. It's taking people out so fast and it's so good, and Blighted Agent is unblockable. So again, if your play group's not about that or you don't like Infect, completely understand. But if it's not, against the rules in your play group, play it. Play this. These two cards are crazy win cons with Mimeo. With the enchantments, the number one I want to suggest is Fraying Sanity. This is an amazing card. The reason why I love this so much is it's great self-mill. Absolutely amazing self-mill because it just piles onto whatever mill you already have going. But if someone at the table is playing a really cool, just giant creature deck and you want to see more of it, you can throw it onto them and have them get milled for more. It's a great card. It's only 3 CMC. It's just a great mill enabler, and it's targeted, so it's not going to get everyone as mad. A lot of group mill, the whole table's trying to kill you. But this, you can pick one player or pick yourself and kind of get more of a targeted effect to get more Mimeo targets. Now in the sorcery slot, I love, you have some awesome just bomb cards in this. Rise of the Dark Realms is just so good in this deck. You're running Traumatize. Mind Grind. Mind Grind is one of my favorite cards. This is such a cool effect, so I love really the big kind of explosive type cards you have in here are awesome. But like I said, it's kind of that setup that we wanted to work on in this deck, and the number one thing that I felt like it needed was lots of ramp. One of the things with Mimeo is it already costs 5 to cast just once. And Mimeo is the type of card where you want to recast it and recast it. Now we'll get a little bit later on how to make this more efficient, but in the meantime, just ramping out of control is kind of the best thing to do. We want all the explosive vegetations, the ramping growths, Kodama's reaches. Probably my favorite one to put in this deck is going to be Hour of Promise because it does ramp you for 2 lands and you can pick any lands. You already had Urborg and Cabal Coffers in here, and there's a couple other lands that really enable this deck that you can go ahead and fetch out. So lots of ramp. I basically just filled this sorcery slot with tons of ramp because the average CMC in a Mimeo deck is always high, and a lot of the time it doesn't matter because those are cards you want in your graveyard. You're not trying to cast them. But you never want to be in a situation where Mimeo now costs 7 or 9 and you don't have the mana to do it. Mimeo's a deck where you want to ramp hard. Even late game, to be honest, half the time you're dredging. So you're not really worried about top decking a ramp card because you're just trying to get more stuff in your graveyard anyway. So lots of ramp sorceries I think really help this deck to go. With the artifacts, first one's Expedition Map, kind of along the same thought process as that Hour of Promise I mentioned earlier. When I get to these lands, you'll understand why you want to be able to tutor for that land. And if it's low CMC, easy to get out early and get that done. And the other is Altar of Dementia. Altar of Dementia is just so good. Having a sack outlet, you want a sack outlet in this deck because if you can't bounce Mimeo back to your hand, there are a lot of times where you do want to be able to sack it so you can make it something else. And the fact that you can just sack it and on top of that, throw a whole bunch of cards into your graveyard with the mill is just amazing. It is perfect. So yeah, Altar of Dementia is just an amazing card in this deck. It can also allow for some cool alternate win cons. One of my favorite things to do with Mimeo is you get Altar of Dementia, all the +1 counters from Lord of Extinction. There are times where you can mill somebody out with Altar of Dementia because that thing gets so big because everybody's graveyards are filling up so much. So Altar of Dementia, it enables your engine, it gets your engine running, which is always so important, but maybe even more importantly, it can allow for explosive turns. And with Mimeo, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that just huge, out of nowhere, just bam, of Mimeo just oozing on people. Crazy. I really am not making any changes to the instance. I'm leaving them the way they are. It's just, Intuition is such an amazing card. I'm so happy to see it here. It's an expensive card, so if you have access to it, that is so awesome. It's just, this is not me really, changing anything. I'm just complimenting you on that card choice. It's an awesome card in this deck. It is perfect. Now the land, I think this land slot is really where I put the two most important cards, and where obviously I'll get down to the all-stars and everything, and what I'm going to prescribe, and kind of a tease to that. But the two lands I just put in here that are so important are Command Beacon and Sanctum of Eternity. These allow you to get Mimeo back without having to worry about paying commander tax. Sanctum of Eternity is amazing. You can bounce your commander, just recast it, pick new targets. It is perfect. You don't have to worry again about the tax. Command Beacon, just as good, maybe better. We are running, and a key card I didn't really talk on much earlier is Life from the Loam. Life from the Loam is a key with these cards in this deck. This is going to allow you to dredge it back to your hand, cast it, make sure you always have access to Command Beacon and the Sanctum of Eternity. Because my experience with Mimeo is no matter how much you ramp, you always get to a spot where it's costing just so much to cast, and it's just becoming really difficult to hit what you need to hit efficiently, and you just run out of mana. Even with stuff like Cabal Coffers and Urborg, it's hard to keep up. These cards allow you to not worry about that tax, so you can keep getting new Mimeo targets, because Mimeoplasm is a ton of fun. Even if you're only getting 2 or 3 combinations a game, but with these cards, you can just get 4, 5, 6 different iterations of that Mimeo monster per game with crazy combinations coming up with more fun stuff. So these two, I 100% just put them in there, and that difference it can make is crazy. All right, so now we need to get to the top 3 things I'm prescribing. We're writing you those prescriptions. We're getting you that healthy stuff you need, and these are the top 3 cards. And I'm gonna kind of cheat and put 2 in one slot, but these are the top 3 things I really think you need to put in this deck to get it running even better and to just get it running more efficiently. So we're gonna categorize this. It's not gonna be 3 individual cards, but you'll see how it goes. So in that number 3 slot, I'm putting ramp sorceries all as one card. I think a lot of ramp sorceries and getting all of those in there is going to help the deck run so much. And even if it was running well before, getting these ramp cards is great. And like I mentioned earlier, the worst thing about sorcery ramp in some decks is if you get it late game, if you're top decking it, you don't really want it. But because of dredge, late game, there's not many times where you're going to want to draw anyway. You want to dump more stuff in your graveyard. So again, you're just dumping it at that point. In the number 2 slot, I am putting Skittles. Skittles is such an awesome win con. I just love Skittles. I talked about Skittles earlier, but it is just an awesome card. And the thing I love about Mimeo is it gives you so many options. If you're sitting there playing with a more casual pod, you can go ahead and exile just a giant trampler and a Galta and just make it like a 30-30 trampling monster that your opponents can deal with, and it just makes for a big, fun, stompy deck. But if you get salty, that's when that Skittles comes out, and Skittles can just one-shot somebody out of nowhere. I always think, games run long in Commander. They are slow. I feel like every deck, not saying every deck should just combo off and kill everybody, but every deck needs an out-of-nowhere, just kind of win con when a game stalls out. And there's a lot of ways to do that with Mimeo, but I think Skittles is the best, and it can be very resilient. It can regenerate itself. It's just an awesome card. So yes, if you have access to it, Skittles is my number 2 suggestion there. And then the number 1 thing I'm going to prescribe, no surprise here, I mentioned it while we were doing it, but it is just that important, to me at least, is Command Beacon and Sanctum of Eternity. Now, Sanctum of Eternity is a newer card, so I haven't got to play test it too much, but these are just awesome cards. You're getting around commander tax, and for a commander that you want to be able to play again, and play again, and play again, it opens just up so many possibilities and makes it even more fun. When I played Mimeo, the only times I really didn't have fun with it is when I got taxed out and where I was milling all these things and I just felt like, oh, I have all these cool combinations, but I don't have the mana for it. And between these lands and all the ramp spells, you should really never feel in that position. You should be able to all game be coming up with crazy Mimeo contraptions with just these monsters of awesome combinations of creatures. And that's going to do it for the deck doctor. This deck is so much fun. I love Mimeo. I'm so happy. Really, my face lit up when I saw that the next deck doctor was going to be a Mimeo deck. Like I said, it really does hold a special place in my heart. I really hope you like the suggestions. So what I'm going to do actually for you is, in the description, I'm going to post the before and after, the pre-doctored and the post-doctored deck. But I'm also going to post my own personal Mimeoplasm deck list in there if anybody wants to check that out as well. If you have any questions in the comments, definitely ask. Again, one of my favorite decks. Thomas, if you want to reach out and have any other questions about why I included certain cards, I couldn't touch on every card that I kind of swapped in. It's, again, because it's a personal deck, I had even more suggestions than usual just because I have a lot of experience with the Commander. Definitely reach out. It's an awesome deck. It is so much fun, and I definitely recommend stick with the Mimeo. If it's I don't know if it's a newer deck for you, if it's something you've been playing for a while, but it is just such an amazing, amazing deck, and I definitely salute you for showing love to that Mimeo monster. If any of y'all are interested in the Mimeo, which I so recommend, you need to play Mimeo, go ahead, go down in the description and click on that TCG player, link our affiliate code, and you help support the channel, help us get out even better quality content, more content, and we really do appreciate all of it. As always, we love and appreciate y'all patrons so much. That's why we make videos like this for you, for the patrons. It really means so much to us that even the people who are watching, that people care that much. It really does mean a lot. So thank y'all so much. There's a lot coming out. We got a lot of deck doctors coming, believe me. So if anybody has their stuff submitted or anything, don't worry, it's coming. Believe me, we are doctoring up stuff daily, getting everything ready. And it's a lot coming. But until then, I will see y'all next time.